Hello and welcome to Cracked Open, a podcast guiding you on your journey to becoming a vessel of unconditional love. This is your host, Beck Milonis, High Priestess, Channel, and Activator. Join me on this series as I share reflections, insights, and channel transmissions from my journey of walking the initiation path. Each episode is a unique transmission containing supportive frequencies to facilitate the deepest healing, activation, and reconnection with your soul. I invite you to open your mind and set the intention to receive this episode into your heart space. Let's go. Hi, beautiful souls, and welcome to another episode of this podcast. Today, the intention is to really drop into needs, so authentic soul needs versus desires and preferences. So what we think we need versus what would truly fulfill us at a soul level. I've recently been doing a lot of unraveling around really feeling into what would truly fulfill me on a deep heart, soul, body, mind, spiritual, esoteric level versus what I think that I desire from the level of the mind. So what I think would be the highest potential for me, what I think I desire from my business, from my mission, from my purpose, from my future partner, and really examining and stripping away where in my life am I holding on to preferences or attachments that are coming from a place of lack or needing validation or seeking approval or wanting to bolster or foster a sense of identity that is removed from my true soul essence. And what I've been really called to reflect on is that sometimes we really feel or think that we want something. We have a desire, right? We have, for instance, a certain partner. I'm going to talk a lot about partnership on this podcast because it's been such a large part of my journey of unfolding and cracking open. And so we think that a certain type of person is going to be the kind of person that would fulfill us truly. And we think that we need this checklist of, okay, so they're successful, they're driven, they're spiritual, they're this, they're that, they look like this, it looks like this is kind of the lifestyle we lead. This is what it looks like, right? And actually what would truly fulfill us when we strip back all of the needing to validate or prove ourselves through the things that are showing up in our lives, through our external environment, through what we have, what we are achieving or succeeding in. And we strip all of that back, what would actually truly nourish us on a deep soul level, what is, the core or the essence of what we desire to feel in, for instance, this relationship or in our business or whatever it is, whatever avenue or area in your life where you're desiring something. When you strip back the external, the external filters or the external desires, which are attached to identity, then what would truly fulfill us on a soul level can be quite surprising and unexpected. And so recently I want to speak into, I have a tendency to see timelines. So whenever I meet someone and there's a deep soul connection, I can actually see timelines where we've been together in other incarnations or future timelines or opportunities, or, what it would feel like to be in relationship with that person based on past experiences or just based on their energy. And I met someone recently who, nothing really happened between us, but it showed me a potential, which was really unexpected for me, of how I would like to feel in connection, right? In sacred union. And what this man's energy opened the door to for me really experiencing or feeling energetically was deep nourishment and nurturing and feeling safe. So a safe, regulated nervous system and what that would feel like in my body, right? And just really grassroots, kind of simple, family oriented. You can hear the tone in my voice changing and the frequency you could probably feel coming through my body as I speak about what that would feel like, right? And it was completely unexpected to me because it took me to a place and a vision for my future which was quite different to what I've been consciously manifesting or directing all of my attention and my energy and my desires towards. Because if I'm being honest with myself, what I think that I desired out of a partner is not truly what I desire on a soul level or source or, my higher self, my soul desires for me, for my growth. And so things like, for instance, I always desired to have this, freedom lifestyle, this nomadic partner who could travel the world with me, and they were entrepreneurial and successful, and perhaps they were in the healing arts, they were a medicine man, whatever it was, and they devoted their life like me to this purpose or this mission. And I really wanted this person to have this, following or success, or they'd made it in some way, that they were attractive physically, that they were fit, they were all of these things, right? And I went through, after seeing this potential with this person, I went through and I asked myself, why is it that I truly desire all of these things that I have on my list? For instance, that they're an entrepreneur, that they're successful, rah, 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 whatever. And what is the core essence of what I would receive in that? Like, why do I desire that, right? And I recognized, actually, perhaps the desire for me to have an attractive partner who's like physically attractive, right? Or like fit or whatever it was, to have someone who is an entrepreneur or an influencer or really successful in their own business or whatever it was actually me receiving that feedback about myself. So it was like, in having a partner that was XYZ and presented in a certain way, then I would have an identity that matched that. Like, my worth would be, I suppose, like, raised in the presence of this person. Like, oh, she has a partner that looks like this, and she has this, and whatever. And so it made me feel better about myself, of like, well, look at this partner that I have, therefore I am worthy. I am worthy because I have this partner who's entrepreneurial or successful, or I am interesting because I have this nomadic lifestyle, or whatever it is, right, guys? Whatever it is that you desire on this superficial level. And when I tuned into this timeline and that potential, and what that truly felt like in my body, it felt like homecoming. It felt easeful and graceful and just simple. And the simplicity of it actually touched and nourished my soul in a way that I did not foresee for myself. I couldn't imagine that I could feel that level of comfort and security and depth. And suddenly, all of these things that I thought I desired became like secondary or not as important, right? And this person that I had this this experience with doesn't actually look or appear externally like what I was imagining for myself. So I had, a long list of physical traits, and he would do this for a job, and rah rah rah, he's this kind of person. And what this person did, essentially, this beautiful soul, they showed me, even without connecting on an intimate level, literally just by meeting this person and being in their energetic space, showed me the type of partner that would actually nourish my soul, that would actually feel good, what I truly need, right? What I crave on a soul level, that would fulfill me, that isn't a desire that I have in order to prove something about myself or appear a certain way. And I was like, oh shit, this feels really good. Interesting, right? Isn't it interesting? And I started seeing this entirely new timeline and trajectory for my life, right? And this is what's been happening over the past couple of months. So for those of you who don't know me and don't know my personal story, I've actually been living in Bali for the past few years. And I was really, I suppose, attached to this identity of, I'm living this luxurious, nomadic, freedom lifestyle on this island, and look at me doing something completely out of the box, and I live on my own terms, and rah, 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 rah. Like, that was really important to me, to have that freedom, right, at the time. And I began to realize that actually, I think I was more attached to how that looked to others, right? People saw me and they were like, wow, that's so cool. That's so dope that you get to live on this island and have this lifestyle where you can just have one suitcase and you go anywhere, right? But actually, in my heart, in my soul, the truth was that I've been craving depth and nourishment and settling down, like putting down roots, and being closer to my family, right? So tribe, community, family, a regulated nervous system, just feeling peaceful and easeful. And Bali, as beautiful as it's been, and the amazing healing that happened there and everything was so perfect for me at the time, but I'm beginning to feel like there's there's no longer resonance between where I was and what served me at that time and where I'm going. And the superficiality of everything there, there's a lot of influences there and people projecting a certain lifestyle that doesn't actually have depth. Even the spirituality there, I feel, is very ego based, it's ego driven, it's for the show of it, for the appearance of it, rather than the grassroots core of what spirituality is truly about. And to me, that's love and genuine connection. So I found like I was not really getting what was truly nourishing me there. I was unable to find that community, that tribe that I was craving, right? And so in the process of healing a lot of my stuff around connection and particularly my family, like healing a lot of my heart wounds around connection and tribe and safety and um, what it would feel like to not be in this constant nervous system overdrive and response of things needing to be difficult and chaotic and turbulent and never knowing what my next step is and all of this stuff, right? When I let go of all of that, I realized that my core, my essence, what my soul desires is nourishment. It's like nourishment and stability and a partner or someone in my life who could just make me feel really fucking grounded and safe and just like, babe, I've got you. Like, I've got you. I see you. I'm not going anywhere. I'm sturdy. And so that opened up potentials to me of the different types of men who could actually, or even women, I mean, I'm open, let's see. But I feel like because I'm a feminine core, I would obviously, like, I really desire and need or crave masculine core beings, so men or masculine identified beings. Um, I open to look at like what kind of men actually would be able to give me that experience. And I used to make jokes around, like in Australia, we have this thing called tradies, and these are tradespeople, right? Men like carpenters, construction workers, all of this stuff. I used to have this joke about like high visibility gear turns me on for some reason, right? And I recognize like the core actually of the man that I tend to resonate with most is a tradie. They're just really simple, basic, beautiful, like down to earth, good with their hands, no bullshit, no fuss. Tradies, right? I have this thing for fucking tradies, and it's so funny because I've told myself for so long, I need this like spiritual master, right? And a tradie couldn't possibly give me that because they're not flexible and they can't travel wherever they want and rah, rah, all of this stuff, thinking that I needed this entrepreneur who was on this nomadic journey when truly actually what would satisfy my soul was a tradie. It's really basic, right, guys? Really basic. Like, who is the father that I want for my children? What kind of energy do they have? And what do they bring to the table? And for me, noticing how much I'm in my feminine chaos, I will be first to admit that sometimes I really drop into feminine chaos and I can get lost there sometimes. But what would really serve me and my purpose is being held and safe in stability and grounding and someone who could support me, right? So I had a lot of resistance to even allowing myself to be supported by the masculine. And I'm beginning to realize that perhaps part of my journey is to be, supported physically, like financially, emotionally, stability wise, in all areas, allowing that support in and not letting it mean something about me. So I had this desire to be so successful in my business and independently, financially independent. And that was more needing to prove something, right? It was needing to prove, hey, I did this, I succeeded, I'm independent, rather than actually, if I think about it, perhaps being with a man who could completely just support me financially and desired to do that, right? So I want someone who would desire that because that's a core desire or value for them. That's just how they were raised. They're traditional, they're old school, they like taking care of a woman in that way. It makes them feel good, right? So finding someone who genuinely desired to give me that so I could be in this cosmic space more often. And so when I serve, it comes from a place of genuine desire and creativity, and I can just be in my magic and my flow and my feminine, creating whatever feels fucking good for me in that moment without having to worry about money, right? So being able to serve for free because it feels good, because that is not a worry in my mind, because I'm supported, because I have a partner who has a sturdy, stable career doing whatever it is, right? I'm kind of open to that now. I don't really care. As long as they have spiritual understanding, mastery, emotional awareness, emotional intelligence, and truly like just an open heart, right? So I've actually opened myself up to dating recently. And a lot of the time I've been on this journey towards divine union, I've kind of oscillated between wanting to be open and allowing spirit to bring me the connections and the relationships and the soulmates and the people who would help me to grow and evolve. So being detached from how that looks, being open to something different, versus knowing my desire and my standard and what I truly want, right? Like in my heart there is a yearning so deep for divine union, for being seen and met in all of me and held and loved and accepted, and to weave this path with someone spiritually where we are sharing a vision together, right? And I've gone between the two. So I've been like, it has to be that I'm open to everything and, like just accepting whatever comes my way because it's a growth lesson and I'm open to receiving the reflections from people. And I know that I've done enough work on my own. And now the true work will come through me experiencing connection. Like you can only truly see what's there lurking under the surface that needs healing when someone else is showing up in your environment, right? And this is the thing, for so long I would be like, yeah, I'm so full of self-love and I feel so good. And then the moment someone showed up, all of my triggers would arise and I'd be like, but I thought I dealt with that, but I thought I was past that, I thought I was healed. And so it's only truly in connection that we can see our stuff that's under the surface, because connection requires vulnerability and openness, and it requires you to lay down some barriers and address where you have these barriers, right? So I knew and I know that I need to be open to connection, and I need to be open to connections that are perhaps not what I think that I want or how I think it needs to look. But as I'm doing this and I'm opening myself up, I've been shown a few, people who've come into my field. I went on a date last night and he was a beautiful man, really just traditional. And he was a gentleman, super open. He wasn't hugely spiritual, but he was open to listening to me rant on about all this crazy stuff. Um, and just really appreciated my softness and my sensuality. And we had a common love of music, right? So he had really beautiful energy and we connected energetically without this crazy cosmic connection that I have had many times with many beautiful men through my journey, and other, women as well, and family and whatever. So we had this connection and I was like, okay, I'm open to, I wasn't super physically attracted to him, but I've learned to let go of that a little bit and be open to just explore and see if maybe that attraction will grow through the energetic attraction. And what I realized was, in not being clearer on a certain like need of mine, which I'm going to explain in a moment what that is, I was actually self abandoning in a way. There came a point in the evening where we were discussing, these states that I get into, and these really deep shamanic states and these trance states where I'm processing a lot of emotion and completely like, speaking other languages, looking a bit freaky. We even spoke about me doing exorcisms in spirits. And I could tell that this was an edge for this man and he was not able to meet me fully, right? Like I knew that he would not be able to rise to meet me because he wasn't there and he had his own stuff to work around. And so what happened was we began to exchange some physical intimacy. I had a boundary around, I don't want it to go to a certain level, like this is what I'm comfortable with, and he respected that. But I felt like in that moment where I recognized that this man was not able to hold me spiritually in the depth that I needed to, that was the moment where I realized this connection had nothing more for me, right? And I receive that I needed to have this experience, and I'm grateful for it because it showed me where I was quick to kind of self-abandon. But in that moment, I should have said, okay, look, this is like a fundamental core need of mine. It's not a desire. It's not a preference. It's not an attachment. This is something that my soul needs. I need to be fully accepted and seen in all of me. And if I feel like I cannot express parts of myself to you safely, then unfortunately, it's just not going to be aligned. There's no alignment here, right? If we don't have a common drive or vision or path that is aligned towards mutual spiritual growth, for me, that's actually a deal breaker. So that's what this man showed me. It's a deal breaker if, like I said, they don't need to be doing this for a job. And the man that I met who showed me this potential earlier that I was discussing, he didn't do it for a job, but he was definitely on a spiritual path. So he had his own healing path that he was on, right? So I feel like he would have some awareness, right, around holding space for this sort of thing. Whereas the man who I went on a date with didn't have a framework of understanding for that because he hadn't done his own work. So, how the fuck was he going to be able to hold me in that space? And I'm lucky enough to have had several beautiful men in the past year and a half who have been able to hold me in that space, who have said, not only is it okay for you to express in this way, but I actually, give me more. I want more. Give me more of you. Give me more of your energy. Give me more of this intensity. Crack open even more. Allow me in even more. Surrender even more. You are safe, right? And I've had the experience of what it feels like and how I can fully open being in that space. And I had this beautiful experience with this man in Mexico earlier in this year where he just kept asking, like, how can I support you? How will you feel safe to open more? Because he understood that the feminine is this mystical force of creation, and within the feminine are the keys to the universe, right? So he understood that his purpose and his path to, I suppose, reaching these states of being through the feminine was to hold me in a space where I felt safe to go there. And as a result of that, take him there with me, right? And that man had done a lot of spiritual work to understand that dynamic and understand how to make me feel safe. And so I was able to go there, and we went to some places that there's like literally no words. Like there's no human words to describe what was possible. The healing that we were doing together for the land there in Mexico, we shared a past life there, and came together to heal a lot of trauma from the land. But not only that, the messages I was able to channel for the divine feminine collective, for the divine masculine collective, because I was being held by this divine masculine energy, right? So I've seen that potential. I know it exists. I know it's possible for me. I've had it before, and I should know by now that that is a non-negotiable for me. Like, to be able to have someone who has the capacity, and I'm not saying that they need to meet me there always, and it always needs to be that intense, but they have the capacity already within them to go there, go to these places with me, right? Like, it's such a fundamental core soul need for me to go to these spaces, not only alone, but in union, in partnership, because that's when I'm able to expand even more, to crack open even more, to shoot up into the galaxy even more, being anchored and held in this space. And a couple months after that, I called in another beautiful soul connection, and that was just a friendship. But that man was also able to really, really hold me in this space where I felt completely safe. And it was because we connected with our inner children together. And so both of our inner children felt so safe. And so what was possible was that I was able to hold all of him, and he was able to hold all of me with no judgment, and we just melted into this love together. And it was so beautiful and so orgasmic. Even though it wasn't sexual, it was so orgasmic and elevated us both to this whole new level, which truly, that's what Tantra is about. It's like allowing someone else in to elevate each other and seeing the divinity in that person, right, in that moment. So last night, the reflection was for me, okay, that is like a non-negotiable. I need that. That's not a desire. It's not an attachment. It's not a preference. I'm being shown that I need that. And what happened was, when we began to, get a little bit physically intimate, we were making out, whatever it was, I could feel some emotions coming up in me. And I was getting a little bit, there was sadness in my heart of like, this isn't meeting me fully. Like, I can't show this man who I truly am. I can't express who I truly am. And he was like, it's okay if you need to cry, I can hold that space. But in my body, in my being, I could tell that actually he couldn't. He said, yeah, I'm comfortable. It's cool. You can cry. But I could feel him contracting, and I could feel him pulling away. And I could feel that it actually wasn't fair on him to express in that way, because it was almost too much for him to handle. And his desires and core kind of needs were positivity and ease, right? And I'm not I'm the first to admit that sometimes I'm not the most easy person to be with, because I experience the depth so much, right? And so any partner that I have needs to be not only okay with that, but accepting it without needing to take it on, right? So able to hold that space neutrally with no judgment. So that's the true divine masculine. And I could feel that this man would have taken all of that stuff on as his own. Like, why is she crying? Have I done something, right? It would have triggered his wounding in a way that wasn't productive or necessary. And so I recognized, I was like, okay, that's an edge. And I feel like I'm not even safe to cry. So I felt myself pulling back, and I was like, okay, I now don't feel safe. I don't feel, there's no sexual connection here anymore because I don't feel safe to be in that way. And I allowed it to go on a little bit further than I felt comfortable with. And he was asking me to stay over. And I just felt like, actually, that's not honoring me. And I left, and I felt like a lot of sadness in me of like, why the fuck can't I find someone who really meets me in all of these ways, right? And in unpacking that and sitting with that, I recognized where I wasn't fully able to accept and unconditionally love all of these aspects of myself, and acknowledge where I have met that in the past. I have had men who have been able to meet me and accept me, and so it is possible, and I've already achieved that. So, that should be a standard for me now. And also the disappointment I felt in myself for not being clearer on my boundary and really just saying, actually no, I'm good, and I need to leave, and this is not meeting me, right? And just honoring that and ending it, and not feeling like the need to, I didn't want to make him feel bad, or I didn't want it to be awkward. I didn't want to say no, right? Good girl conditioning or people pleasing tendencies, like where in the past I wouldn't have been able to say no to a man. I felt like I owed them something because they'd been paying for drinks all night, or because they paid for my Uber, or they were a gentleman, or whatever that was. I just felt some conditioning coming up that was being shown to me around, where I didn't really hold my boundary. And so it was disappointment a little bit in myself. And I had to bring myself back to compassion and be like, hey, it's okay. We're still learning. It's all right. This man showed you something. Next time, we're going to recognize that sooner. And now we know what it feels like to feel unsafe. And the moment that starts welling up, maybe that's the time to express, or that's the time to leave and make sure that your little girl feels taken care of, right? Like, she's my number one fucking priority. It shouldn't be, is this man going to feel weird? Am I going to make him feel awkward, right? Like, no. My little girl is my number one fucking priority, and I have promised her that I won't abandon her. I have promised her that I will take care of her. I will be that divine masculine protector for her until I can find someone in my external who mirrors that back to me, right? So I've learned from this situation, I've grown, and I've also seen now, like, it's narrowed and refined for me truly what is a non-negotiable. So the things that I am prepared to, be open to or let go of, the physical appearance obviously doesn't matter so much to me, even though that was such a big thing for me. The career or whatever it is that they do doesn't really matter so much to me, so long as they're stable and, doing something that they love, and, a bunch of other things. And I've really recognized where I've now identified a core soul need, right? And so the invitation here is to look at, when you have your list of like what it is that you're trying to create, what you're trying to bring into the world, you're trying to manifest, what are you creating from a place of what you think would fulfill you, versus what are your truly non-negotiable, I am no longer fucking energetically available for, um, I will not lower my standards for, this is a red flag, I will walk out the door if I see this behavior, right? Like, what are they? What are your red flags? What are your non-negotiables? And where are they coming from, right? Are your red, like, so for instance, a red flag or non-negotiable for me in the past was he, you know, like, what's a good example? He has a career that doesn't allow him to be flexible. And obviously that was because I desired this nomadic lifestyle because it made me appear a certain way, or I need them to be very financially successful, or I need them to be fit and look a certain way. And that was like a non-negotiable. If someone who didn't look a certain way came along, or didn't take care of their body, or didn't have a drive to be successful in their business, I would be like, no, thank you, next. And I would shut myself down from any connection, right? And I'm recognizing like perhaps that's not so important for me so much as the other things, like how this person makes me feel. And like my whole life has had this huge overhaul. Like I said, I'm considering moving back to Australia, moving back closer to my family, moving back to live on the land here, like out in the coast, a quiet, a modest family life versus this crazy, chaotic freedom lifestyle of the influencer because that appears cool. It makes me look like interesting, right? So I've let go of a lot of stuff and it's still a journey. So I guess where I want to leave this or finish this transmission is when you're connecting with people, when you're calling in partnership, when you're exploring conscious connection or you're exploring your desires, really try to look at where those desires are coming from, what you're willing to be flexible around, like what's a preference, and what is the universe showing you that maybe, it's something that you wouldn't have even imagined. Actually, there's a story unrelated to partnership that I want to leave this episode on. And it was when I was creating the vision for my life, right? So about 7, 8 years ago, I began really consciously co-creating and calling in this vision for my life. And I didn't truly know what that looked like, right? I had some things that I desired, like I wanted to be my own boss. I wanted to be able to live wherever I wanted to work on my own terms, to be successful. I wanted it to feel nourishing. I wanted it to feel like I was helping people, so it was supportive. I wanted it to feel soul aligned. But I didn't know what that looked like. I just wanted to get paid essentially for being my fucking self. And at the time, I didn't even know that the coaching industry existed. I didn't know that the healing and spirituality space, you could make a living doing all of this. And so in the process of my journey, I was shown the coaching world and I became really attached to this idea of, oh my God, this is it. I'm meant to be a coach. I'm meant to be the next Tony Robbins. Like that's it. I found my purpose. I found what would truly fulfill me. And the irony, and not the irony, the truth is, in that year and a half that I was doing coaching and I was pursuing this path, it didn't truly fulfill me. Like something felt not aligned. And I didn't even have a framework to know or see or understand what my true purpose felt like, because it was something that I never would have even considered. Like if someone had said to me 10 years ago, you are this mystic, you are this healer, you are this shaman, you're here to take people to these places and feel God in this way and all of these things, I literally would have looked at them and been like, you are fucking crazy. Like that is not something that I would ever have imagined for myself. And I remember in the year that I was this coach, I kept meeting these healers and these shamans and these psychics who told me, you have these gifts and this is your purpose. You are here to heal people in this way. And I kept saying to myself or saying to God or my higher self and declaring it, okay, once my coaching business is successful, then I will open up to, to explore these gifts. And obviously, Spirit had very different ideas because Spirit knew that truly, actually, what would fulfill me was going on the path for my gifts. And that's where all the things that I desired were, where they resided, where this big vision, that's a trajectory I needed to go on. So I almost needed to let go of the attachment to this vision of being a coach to open up the space to be shown something else. And I remember I was so fucking attached and I was like, why don't I get to have this? It's not fair. Like, what, like this is supposed to be my thing, like, rah, 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 whatever. I got really in my victim about it. And Spirit just kept saying, let go. Just let go and trust. Just let go and trust. Be prepared to not fucking know. Be prepared to let go of what you think that you know, to just have it all stripped back and be shown something new, something different, something helpful. And it's almost like when I let go of that, I was shown the true potential of what I could really receive, right? And that started me on the trajectory to this mission. And what I feel, what I experienced, how fucking incredible it feels to be with Spirit, to be connected to God, to be on this path, to be serving in this way. I couldn't have even imagined it, right? Because I didn't even know, right? And so there's this saying of like, the universe knows more than you know what is truly the best for you, right? It's like the universe will give you what you need, not what you want. And I had so much fucking resistance to that for so long. And I was like, no, I know what I need. This is what I need. And I'm not letting go of that. And so stubborn. And so many of us do this. And we try to cock block and micromanage the universe because we believe that we know what is the best for us. And that's just because we haven't gone through the unfolding or the journey to truly unpack and let go of what we think that we know, what we think what would fulfill us, the identities, what we're getting from these identities, the stories, the needing to prove, all of that stuff. And just allowing God the spirit, the universe, our higher self, our soul, to guide us to what would truly fulfill us. And so I want to leave you with a little mantra, a little prayer that you can say every day to really allow your spirit, your soul, God to show you, to guide you towards what would truly fulfill you on a soul level. And that is, I open myself up to receive what would truly nourish and nurture me on a soul level, what would truly fulfill all of my desires. I'm prepared to let go of expectations, attachments, and outcomes and be guided to what would truly fulfill me. I invite you to reflect and receive this in your heart, and I hope that it serves. Until next time, beautiful beings, I love you. Thank you for listening to another episode of Cracked Open. Don't forget to hit subscribe and share with a friend if this episode has served you in any way. For more information about the work that I do or to get in touch with me, read the show notes or head to beckmylonis.com. Until next time, beautiful soul.